There was a lot of politics in Paralympic sport back then, and I thought, right, well, I'm not a Paralympic athlete. You know, I'm not a disabled athlete. So there was a lot of fighting going on, and people trying to pull you from one way to the other. And I said, look, I'm going to run for UK athletics. That's who I run for. I'm not a Paralympic athlete. I'm an athlete. That's it. One word. And I switched training groups. I went to an international group. I trained with a guy by the name of Ao Falola. He was coaching Donna Fraser at the time, and Catherine Murphy and Vicky Day and some of our British athletes, and eventually Joe Fenn, and I started training with them, and I was Donna Fraser's training partner. Originally I was a 400 metre runner. Yeah. I started doing the 4, and then in 2001 I tried the 800 out in a end of a track season. Instantly took to the 800 metres. It was just one of those moments when you go, that feels right. And then over the next year to 18 months was gradually changing the event. So basically over the next 18 months I was introducing more and more endurance into my training to get me ready to race 800 metres. And then of course I moved on, so I'd still train with Donna sometimes, but I now had other training partners. I was training with Joe Fenn, who was an 800 metre runner. When I started, with the 4, my first year was a finalist in 1998. In 99 wasn't a big year really. There wasn't a lot going on. 2000 was the first Paralympics. I was 3rd, bronze medalist. And then after that, I started to struggle a bit more with the 4. I just wasn't physically fast enough to run it. I mean, I was running flat out to get to 200 metres, whereas most of the runners was running within themselves. And when I started to move up, in 2001 I started to progress. I became a European champion in 2001 over 400 metres, and then after that decided to move up. And so 2002 was the first year where I combined the training. Of course, when you start changing, you make sacrifice sometimes as well. So 2002 was a bad year. I was 4th in both the 800. Well, I ran the 800 first, which is always a gamble to do your weaker event first. And I came 4th. And I only came 4th because I took on the winner. I basically was sitting in the silver position and wanted gold, and I attacked the guy that won it, and he was the world record holder. And by doing that, left myself open and lost another 2 places on the finish line. But then I still had my stronger event to come, and then did the same, came 4th in my stronger event. So lost all my funding, had a really tough year, had questions asked of me, was AO the right person? Categorically said yes. We're moving, it's a tough year, we'll get there. 2003 was probably my first breakthrough year when I won the World Indoor Championships, but the huge leap forward came in 2004 when I broke the world record. Because I was already running I used to run able-bodied. Everything I did was able-bodied, so I run Paralympic once or twice a year. Everything else was able-bodied, so running for my club, running the Grand Prix, running Essex and Southern Championships, British Championships, things like that. And that was the progression really, sort of gradually stepping up. 2004, at a British Milers Club event as well, I smashed the world record. I took a second and a half off the world record, and then I broke it again at the British Olympic Trials in 2004.
Can you sort of try and explain for us what the implications are for a runner with an arm amputee runner? What is a loss of performance? Is it just about balance, or is there anything else?
Well, first they say about being unbalanced. It's not unbalanced as in falling over. It's unbalanced as in your body not being balanced anymore. So your body works in perfect harmony and synergy, and your legs and your arms work well together. When you take away one limb, what happens then is that's your arms are stabilising as well as the part of the driving force behind your running and part of your technique. And so in terms of the race and the running itself, you take away one. So what the arm now can't do, other parts of my body have to do. So now my back will be doing a lot more work to try and stabilise me and keep me upright and straight and stop me from rotating when I'm running. And of course, when my back's working harder, that means that's more prone to tightening up and injuries. When my back starts tightening up, that means my glutes, my hamstrings, my quads, my calf muscles are more prone to injuries. So I had, especially when I was doing the 400 metres, I had a lot of hamstring problems along the way. In terms of the speed and the training, they know that of course when you lose a limb, you lose a percentage of speed, but they just don't know how much it is. There's no calculation that says you will lose 10% of your speed because you've lost an arm. They just know it happens. And of course in training you can't lift the weights that you used to be able to lift, because you can lift about a fifth with one hand of what you can lift with two. So I now couldn't do all the big power exercises that I'd need to do to train. So it has many implications in terms of running. But the actual running itself, it's one of those things, it's a natural progression. It's not like you literally walk out of hospital without an arm one day and start trying to run the bends on the track. It's a natural progression that you start, if you get back into it, you'll start running around, training more, and gradually you don't really notice it in that sense.
In terms of classification as our amputee, is that just a single classification, or are there degrees of?
No, arm amputees, there's pretty much one. It's 46. 4 in classification terms, 4 being amputee, 6 being arm, and it's above and below elbow. That's the almost the downside to my class. It's a very simple classification. There's no grey areas as such. You're an arm amputee, and that's it. You all run together. So above elbow, race against below elbow. Double amputees, race against single amputees. But of course, the problem I had was, especially in the 400 metres, I was racing against guys that pretty much had just lost a hand, got 2 arms, not really a great implication to their running technique. And even if they was a little bit higher, they'd be running in a prosthetic limb that will once again balance them up and give them that uniformness to run. So, but I never complained because I was holding my own, and especially when I moved up to the A, I was the world lead, so I had no reason to complain. They are looking at changing that group. They're always changing Paralympic sport, and they're looking at changing that group and making it above elbow, making it, I guess, more visual, more obvious that you're an arm amputee.
Would you like to say a little bit about what, in your opinion, were some of the kind of, the really great moments, the things that you're proudest of in terms of your sport?
I think there's many. The thing about a sports person, though, is we tend not to reflect too much. We compete. If we do well, we move on. If we do bad, we move on. If we're indifferent in our race, we move on. It's just always moving on. So I guess, some of the key moments for me was winning the bronze in Sydney. I wasn't elated about that. I was absolutely distraught with that because I didn't run very well that day. Got it wrong, threw away the chance to win a gold medal. That was my only chance to take that gold medal in the 400 metres because the event moved on and I couldn't keep up with it. So I was absolutely distraught. It took me about 2 years to get over that. But that in itself was a key moment because of my makeup. That was a driving force in itself to say, right, I want some of this gold medal action and I'm going to work hard to do it. So that in itself was a key moment because had I won in Sydney, I may have dusted off my rugby boots and thrown the spikes in the loft and said, that's it, I'm back to rugby now, I've done what I need to do. But of course it was unfinished business. So I carried on in Paralympic sport. Breaking the world record was a massive moment, and then of course, Athens 2004 was the pinnacle, I guess, of the career. I finished it off in 2006 at the World Championships to complete the set, really, to say Paralympic World Cup, European, world record holder, Paralympic and world champion. I'd done the set by 2006.